Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our presentation today. Be more productive, maintain your focus, and look after your well-being. My name is Barry Coombs, and I am one of your co-hosts here today for this presentation for our Define Tomorrow virtual conference. Megan, I'll pass over to you to do an introduction of yourself.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Megan Warren. I'm the marketing manager at Computer World, and an Office 365 coach, showing everyone how to use those Office 365 applications. And more importantly, in this session, I'm also a mental health first aider alongside my colleague Barry and a couple other people in Computer World as well.
So I think this is a really important presentation, not just now and what we have been through with lockdowns and the changes that are happening around us at the moment, but generally about how we consider how work and personal life are separated, about how we consider how we can make sure that we're productive and we get work done. I find this statistic really interesting, and it's certainly something that does resonate with me. It's been proven that it can take up to 23 minutes for you to be able to refocus once you've been distracted with an email or someone popping up to your desk. Obviously, while we're working from home, it might be the children running in. So it's really important when we want to just get some stuff done, we want to make some progress, to make sure that we are able to maintain our focus. But the world that we're in at the moment is just full of distractions. There's so many distractions around us. We've all got our mobile phones very close to us at the moment. We've got notifications popping up in the web browser. We've got emails coming in. We've got calls. We've got people disrupting us. I'm sure my dog might come running through the door as well in a moment. And what is really difficult is a lot of these notifications, a lot of these disruptions are other people's priorities and not your own priorities. And you can very easily get distracted by those priorities of other people, taking you away from your mindset, your productivity, which in turn can lead to higher stress, bad moods, and lower productivity. Certainly, if you speak to my wife, I know when I've had one of those days and I've just not been able to get done what I needed to be done, it's been full of distractions. I know that it certainly can affect our behavior at home and in the workplace itself. So it is important that we are looking after ourselves, especially in this always connected world. So there are a number of different ways that we want to be talking to you today about how you can proactively protect your focus, how you can be looking after your well-being, but also how we can be talking about this as a team. So Megan, if I pass over to you at this point, maybe you can show us some things within Microsoft Teams that people should be doing to stop those distractions.
Yeah, definitely. So let me just share my screen with you all. So as Barry said, there's a lot of distractions that pop up, and one we've been presenting at Define Tomorrow, we've presented a lot of technologies to help you work on the go, work on your mobile. Everyone's working from home at the moment as well, aren't they? So working from home as well. But what we're keen to do is make sure that we're not giving you all this technology and then just leaving you with it with no way to switch off when you need to. So that goes for Microsoft Teams as well. Microsoft Teams is a great tool for that collaboration piece with your colleagues, that communication piece as well, but we don't want it to be a distraction. So the first thing whenever I'm doing the training as an Office 365 coach that I tell people to do is come into Microsoft Teams and set your settings and your notifications to work for you. So when I'm in Microsoft Teams, I'm just going to come to my settings and into my notifications, and in here I'm going to set these for everything that's coming through. It's only going to take me 10 minutes when I get started here, but what it will do is it will cut out that noise, it will cut out those distractions. So actually Teams is just a really useful tool for me. So we can do it in a number of ways. We can send things so they're only showing in our feed when we're in Teams. That way we won't get those pop-up notifications, which, if we're all honest, they are the biggest distraction when they pop up. We can have them completely off if we want to, or we can have them as a pop-out banner if we want as well. And what is really nice is Teams have recently introduced this missed activity email. So whilst we are trying to take a lot of that distraction out of your inbox and putting it in somewhere more useful, like Microsoft Teams, if you do miss any of that activity because you have got these settings set to be off, or you're maybe on do not disturb using that status, which we'll cover in a little moment, we can set this missed activity email. So anytime, so every hour, if I've missed anything, I'll just get an update from Teams to say what I've missed. So that's really useful. And then the other thing we're going to talk about with Teams is how to stop Teams popping up on your mobile when you're meant to have your own time. So if you go into the settings on your mobile within the Teams application, you can go in there and set your quiet hours. I have mine set from 6 p.m. to 8:30 a.m. And what that means is if anybody in that time sends me a message on chat, tags me in a post in Teams, my phone won't send me that pop-up notification. Then when I'm sat on the sofa and I'm having my family time, I'm having my time, I'm not distracted by work and tempted to go back into that work state. So do go and set your notifications in Teams on your devices, and especially that mobile device, so that you're not distracted in your own time. And what we also have here are some workplace performance tools. So having the right tools in place is really important to make sure that you are cutting out those distractions and able to focus on that work when you are doing that. So the first one we've got here are noise cancelling headphones. As you can see, Barry and I are both wearing those headsets today. Whilst we're in the office, that's really useful if you wanted to either have those calls or have the headphones in so that you can cut out the noise around you. And whilst we're not in the office at the moment, these are still really useful if you've got people knocking on the door, other people within the room on calls or in the house just barking if you've got a dog, for example. Having those headphones on to cut out the distractions for yourself is really useful, but also the other people on the end of the call that you're on. So if I didn't have my headset on now, the quality of my call wouldn't be as good. You'd probably hear other people in the house making noise as well. So it's really useful for that extra concentration, that focus, and to help other people on the calls as well. And the other one we've got here are status flags. So at Computer World, we have the little flags that are on the screen at the moment that we can turn red, green. And what we do is if you're on red, people know that you don't want to be distracted. So they can come back to you another time when you are on green. And when you're on green, you're approachable and anyone can come and talk to you. Obviously, whilst we're not in the office at the moment, these don't seem as relevant. However, we have heard some really interesting use cases where people are using things like the status flags on screen or maybe a hue light bulb outside their office, that when it's red, the kids can't come in the room. As soon as it's green, come in, come and see your parents. But it is still really important to have that time where you are just working head down, and using statuses in Teams as well, or similar applications is really useful to make sure that other people aren't distracting you. So as you can see here, we've got lots of applications open on screen. We've got lots of tabs open. And this is one of the worst things you can do, is that multitasking. Because what you're doing is you're doing a lot of tasks at one time, but you're not actually focusing on that. So you either don't complete it or you do complete it, but not up to the standard that you would be if you were just unitasking. So I think if we're honest, that's Barry's screen at one time a few months ago. And to me, it just looks like chaos and it stresses me out slightly. So what we need to do is Barry needs to close most of those tabs and just focus on that one thing so he can really concentrate on getting it done up to a standard that he's happy with. Otherwise, he'll just work on multiple things and he won't get the job done up to a standard he is happy with either.
Yeah, so the worst thing about that previous slide is, as you can probably see here, the main application in the background there is PowerPoint. And when I was putting the first iteration of this presentation together, this was the desktop that was in front of me. This was what I was tackling. And as Megan mentioned, when you have so much distraction, when you have so much on, it is very difficult for you to focus, and it's very easy for you to be distracted. And we've all ended up down one of those kind of rabbit holes where all of a sudden, an hour later, you kind of think, actually, what should I be doing today? And this brings me to one of the most important tactics that I have implemented, and I regularly speak to those in my team when they're struggling with what should they be focusing on and trying to get through their task list. These two books are books that I've read multiple times that I highly recommend anyone that wants to get a bit more organized, have a bit more focus, which ultimately will then end up in a reduction in stress and better well-being. The first is a book called Getting Things Done by a gentleman called David Allen. It is a methodology for you to utilize to keep on top of your tasks, your to-do list, your projects. And then another book, which is a bit more of a simpler read, but takes many of the aspects from GTD, Getting Things Done, Productivity Ninja by a gentleman called Graham Olcott. They are both offering you ways, systems that you can use and adapt to kind of get your life in order, to mean that you can focus on what really matters at any particular time. And in Productivity Ninja, they refer to this as your second brain. Our brains were not made and are not designed, and they don't work to hold lots of small pieces of information. And if we're just storing information in our minds, then it can become very difficult to switch off. It can become very difficult to not kind of end up being sat on the sofa, should be spending some time with the children, and all of a sudden you get something in your mind dragging you back into that work problem that you've left behind. So I urge people to maybe have a look at certainly the core productivity model, but definitely read the Productivity Ninja and think about actually how are you going to get yourself organized. Now, we're going to talk about some Microsoft tools that you could use to do that, but we're certainly championing using whatever tools work for you. And if that's a notepad, if that's a set of paper, if that's tools from other companies other than Microsoft, then please do that. The important thing here is not using the tools that we're recommending, but figuring out what works for you. So on the screen here, we've got some of the applications that maybe you could use to form your second brain, form your task lists. So we've got To Do, we've got Microsoft Planner, and we have Microsoft Teams on here, all offering different ways to do it. So what I thought I would do is show you an example of as to how I actually manage my schedule, my list, my second brain. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to swap over to my web browser. So you should now be able to see my web browser, and I've browsed to office.com. You could also use the Office application on your computer. And the application I would like to show you through is an application called Planner, which we can see here in the bottom left. Alternatively, you might need to click on the application waffle at the top here and select it from the list here. Alternatively, if you've never used it before, go to All Apps and find it in the list that will appear on screen. Now, here you will see all of the different planners that I've got for different tasks that I'm working on here at Computer World. Now, what I'm just going to go and do here is select some of the demo tasks that I've got in here to be able to show you some of that workflow. Now, inside Planner, you have the ability to create buckets. So as you can see here, I've got a daily bucket, today, inbox, master project list, ideas, and reading material. And there's a few more down that we might come to in a moment. Each of these buckets represent a different process that I will go through to get everything out of my mind, get it organized, and prioritize what I want to work on at any given time. So the first list that we've got here is my daily. This is a list that I don't tick off every day because the way Microsoft Planner works, it doesn't allow you to create reoccurring tasks. But it is where I'm able to put things that I want to go through each day, that I want to make sure I'm doing. So one important task that I like to do is check the daily briefing that my analytics sends you that will appear in my inbox. And we'll go through that a little bit more in a moment. The next is my today bucket, and that's where I'm working in the morning or the previous day. I will move tasks into the today bucket to prioritize what I want to get done today. The next task is my inbox. And the important thing with the inbox is at least once a week, if not more often, you want to come into here and simply write down the tasks that are on your mind, irrespective of how mature they are and what you need to be doing. Because when we get to the section of wanting to organize it, think about what we need to do. Do we need to create more tasks? Is it a bigger project? When do I need to complete this? We can then move them into the relevant areas. The next bucket here is the master project list. This is where I just keep track on all the big projects that I'm working on. So when I come to a review time, it just means that I can just think, do I need to do anything else to get that project moving to the next stage? And then we have a few niceties. So any ideas that I'm working on or come up with, let's document them before they end up kind of leaving our mind. Is there any specific reading material that I want to be reading as well? And I also keep track of any tasks that I've assigned to other people that I just want to make sure that we're going to be progressing. Now, inside each of these tasks, I have got a few different tags that we are able to go and create. So as you can see, I've tagged them here. I've got a specific tag here called frog, and this comes from a book called Eat That Frog. Now, if you, it's a bit of a funny name, isn't it, really? What Eat That Frog means is it's those kind of big tasks that you know that are going to take a specific amount of focus. They're those tasks that probably you don't really want to do, or they're not your favorite tasks to do. So what you should do is you should identify those tasks, and first thing in the morning, you eat that frog. You get those tasks done that have been tagged as frog. The other thing that I've got here is inactive and active. And this will align to my attention level. So if I'm in a level where my mind is really active, I'm being productive, I just want to get some stuff done, I will look for those tasks that are tagged as active attention. If I'm in one of those kind of moods where it's been a busy day, I've had a number of challenges, I just need to get some simple work done. I want to get some stuff done, but my mind really isn't a good place to get something that I'm going to have to be thinking about a lot. I'll go and find those tasks that are tagged inactive. So we can see, we can use our attention levels during the day to help us best pick which tasks we need to be doing. And there's some really nice other features in here that when we get to a point of wanting to review the tasks, we can also set start dates, finish dates, priorities, add notes, add checklists. We can tag people on it if we're giving that to other people. It all depends. For me, this plan is for me personally. I don't share this with anyone else. And that means that I can add even personal things on it. Must remember to put the bin out tomorrow. Got to get the quote for someone to come and fix the washing machine. Anything that is on your mind, get it into your second brain, because it means that you will then be able to relax, get to sleep, enjoy time with family when that is the right time to do that. Now, it is important, Microsoft Planner is available available on your mobile phone, on both iOS and Android, on your iPad. So no matter where you are, you'll be able to keep that list up to date. Last thing at the end of the day, when you're switching off from work, make sure your lists are up to date. That will allow you that time to switch off during the day. So we're going to try and switch back over to the presentation now, and hopefully we will be able to do that. Okay. So that was how I use Microsoft Planner to have that second brain to make sure I know what I need to be working on at any given time.
So now I'd like to speak about an application that isn't a Microsoft application, but it is one of my favorite applications that I use. And I actually learned about this at a session with Graham Olcott, who wrote Productivity Ninja. And this is an application just on my mobile called Forest, because I find that when I am in my focus mode, I can set my status on Teams to do not disturb, so I won't get any pop-up notifications. I actually choose to close Outlook because if anything's that urgent, then I'll see that when I come out of that, but nothing can be that urgent that in my half an hour of focus time or hour of focus time, someone's going to need me via email. So I've cut out those distractions, but then I found myself actually getting very distracted by my phone. So someone would text me on WhatsApp, or I get a notification from Instagram, and that became a distraction because as soon as that pops up, I'm tempted to look at it, and that will then take me out of my work. And like Barry said at the start, it takes 23 minutes to come back to that. So I've downloaded this application, and what it does is you set a timer for how long you want to concentrate on your work, for example, 45 minutes. And over that 45-minute period, your phone is almost locked out to use all the other applications. Whilst you're in that 45-minute period, as you can see on the screen, you grow some trees, and they grow over the time. And the longer you focus, the more trees you get, the bigger the trees you get, etc. And you grow yourself a little forest. If you do start using your phone and actually cut out that forest that you can see on screen there, you get a dead tree in your forest, and nobody wants a dead tree in their forest. So this is something, it's got a little bit of gamification in it, but what it does is it makes it really easy for me to stay off my phone whilst all my other distractions are cut out. I stay off my phone, I'm growing my forest, and actually some of those trees that I'm growing on my forest turn into real trees in the end, because we gather coins and then they use them to plant real trees, which is just another nice little bit. But like I said, there's other applications out there. This is just one that I really like because it has got that gamification and keeps me very focused and away from my phone.
So we're now going to take a look at one of Microsoft's applications that is included with most Microsoft 365 plans. So if your organization does use Microsoft 365, you're using it for emails, using Teams for meetings, this is something that I highly recommend that you have a look at and maybe have a look at with your wider team. So My Analytics is constantly running in the background. It uses artificial intelligence to allow you to get some insights into your working habits, how well you focus, what's the well-being like, are you switching off at the end of the day, who are you working with, and what type of work are you doing? So we're going to go over to have a look at this in action now. So if I share my screen, okay, so hopefully you can see my screen now, and we've gone to office.com and we've loaded My Analytics. Alternatively, you can go to myanalytics.microsoft.com, log in with your normal Microsoft 365 details, and you will get access to it. So straight away in this dashboard, I can get some insight. So I can see that 63% of the time I've been available to focus. I've had 19 quiet days. Those are the days that I have switched off from work at the appropriate time and been connected with my family and wound down. I can see that I actively work with 59 collaborators, or I have done over the last 4 weeks. And I can see that 37% of my time I've spent collaborating with others. So let's dig in and have a look at some of these. The first one is all around the time that you make in your calendar to actually get some work done. Surprisingly, if we spend all of our time in meetings 9 to 5, when are we actually being productive? When are we actually getting things done? So Microsoft are able to help you with this. And what we're able to do is use the plan configuration here in the top right to say whether you wish Microsoft to automatically book you some focus time in your calendar, or you just want Microsoft to remind you that you should have some focus time in your calendar. We've gone and set the settings about what my working days are and which hours do I want that work for. And we've also got the ability to set your team settings over here. Now, what will happen is if you set it to automatic, Microsoft will find up to 2 hours every day to be blocked out as focus time 2 weeks in advance. So we can see that I've got 5 out of 10 days, I've got some focus time booked, and I've maintained that. And it's recommending that I go and review 2 of the next 10 days to do that as well. We can see the trend over the last few weeks, and we're also offered some useful advice. So here there's one that says, during working hours, you read over half of your emails within 30 minutes of receiving them. So this does indicate that maybe I'm being held by ransom to my inbox. I'm prioritizing other people's priorities over my own. And one of the things that I would recommend on that is you should check your inbox once or twice a day. We shouldn't be reacting unless you work on something like a service desk or something where you do have to react on email as soon as it comes in. Generally, it will be okay to check your email 2 or 3 times a day and be productive. The next one we're going to have a look is well-being, and I'll dig into how well I've done in the past and those improvements. But you can see here that I've managed to switch off at the appropriate times in the last 19 days. So that could be better, but it's quite good. I can see where the problem is arose here. I actually had a week off work on this week, and then I've come back, and clearly I've then been burning the midnight oil and trying to get some work done. But actually, has that made me more productive? Has it raised my stress levels? Has it meant that I haven't switched off at the end of the day? Quite possibly. So this is a way that I'm able to stay on top of that, just get that insight and see what's going on. And I can see that 92% of the time, it's meetings that have been distracting that. And I think I was actually attending some late night briefings from a vendor of ours in America during this week. So that probably matches why meetings were such a problem for me during that time. In Network, we're able to see who I'm spending time with. So in here, you can go and see that actually are these good people for me to be spending time with. From my perspective, largely these are people that report to me. So that means that hopefully as a manager, I'm giving them sufficient time. Colby reports to me as well. So potentially I need to be spending a little bit more time with him as well from that perspective. And then the final element of the 4 in the quadrant here is collaboration, where we're able to get some insights into where I'm spending my time. So 8% of time is emails, 37% collaboration, 25% meetings. I can make a judgment call as to whether that is the right time. I can see that what some of the other habits have been like with my working in terms of replying to emails, spending time on Skype and things like that. And this chart down the bottom is really interesting to me. This gives me an average day and what I spend, where I spend doing my time. So what I can see is at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm spending a lot of time sending and receiving emails and quite a lot of time calling. So potentially I should think about moving that into later on in the day. Is that the best use of my time first thing in the morning? First thing in the morning, getting my lists up to date. Eating that frog, as we discussed a moment ago, probably would be better. Maybe if I push this back an hour, I could start off the day even more productive. Now, the final element that I wanted to show you in here was all around leadership. Now, my analytics is completely private. The information in there is not shared with your manager. No one will be able to look at it and make a judgment call as to what you are doing. This is for your insight. Now, under leadership, what this shows me is how I'm being as a leader, how I'm being as a manager. How am I doing things like, am I joining meetings on time? When I'm in a meeting, am I multitasking or am I concentrating on what I'm doing? The direct reports I've got, when did I last have a one-to-one with them? And when have I got the next one-to-one? That's based upon your calendar information. And then finally, down the bottom here, we've got quiet hours impact. So this is where I am sending emails out of hours. So this is something that potentially I need to spend a bit of more time making sure that I'm not disrupting other people, or maybe we're putting some other practices in place that Megan will speak to in a moment to make sure that I'm being a good leader. So if I'm just head back to the presentation now. So as promised, I wanted to show you my journey using my analytics to help improve my well-being, my work-life balance. Now, this screenshot here I took, I think this was back in August, I think it was. This may even been August last year, I think. And the first time I started using my analytics, this is what I was greeted with on screen. Out of 28 days, I'd managed to switch off from work outside of work hours 2 days out of 28. And that's pretty disastrous, if we're honest. Not being able to switch off at a good time is not the right thing to be doing. We need to be working on that. I needed to be working on that. And what you can now see is the journey that I've gone in over time to go from 2 to get to 10. As you can see here, largely I focused on getting my weekends back at this stage. And now where I am today, or you can now see it was 19, I'm now at a point where I'm starting to switch off even more. And I've implemented some things with that. I have no longer got my work email on my personal phone. That removes that distraction, and that's really important for me. I no longer have Teams on my personal phone as well. I have also tweaked the work hours in here on this journey because sometimes I want to start working half an hour early and I might work up to half an hour or so late. And I find that the settings and tweaking those in my analytics gave me a more accurate figure as well. So go in and make this work for you. But importantly, have a look at it, keep checking back on it. And my analytics will be sending you some information into your inbox to give you a bit more insight. So as you can see here, I'm just putting a calendar item into my calendar here in Outlook. And it's giving me on the right-hand side here some things just to keep my mind on. So reminding me to catch up with people in some Teams. I've got some important emails that I've not yet read. It's reminding me to add Anthony Charman to get reminders of some tasks that I've said that I would do in emails. But here it's also giving me some productivity insights saying, maybe you need to respond to meeting insights a bit quicker and have a look at the composition of your current network. But Microsoft are taking this a stage further, and I was really, really pleased to see this during Microsoft Ignite. So what we will see is we will see My Analytics be integrated as an insights app into Microsoft Teams very shortly. And they're working with Headspace, the meditation application that some of you may be aware of, to introduce a virtual commute feature into Microsoft Teams. Now, we've spent years and years and years trying to get away from the commute, try and get away from the humdrum of driving an hour into the office and an hour back home. But what we found since we've been working from home more is actually we miss that time to help us disconnect from work. And maybe we need to look at our routines to make sure that when we leave one room into another in our houses, we are disconnecting. So what they are introducing is a virtual commute. It will give you the opportunity to just review your tasks, to reflect on how your day has been, and finally do a 5 to 10 minute guided meditation to help you switch off and end your day nicely. Really excited about this feature and be interested to see when it's implemented, I believe towards the end of the year into next year.
So we just wanted to talk about some wellbeing rules that you can set in your organisations as well. As Barry spoke about, we've got that leadership insight into how you're being with the leader and all of that stuff from Microsoft Analytics of how you can help yourself protect your focus and protect your well-being. But that's all well and good. But if everyone else in the organisation or that you're working with isn't sticking to that and isn't sort of respecting your status light, for example, that's not going to help you. So we really recommend agreeing some wellbeing rules across your organisations, across your teams, to help you all in this way. So one of the first ways is when you're not meant to be working. So when you're switching off in the evening, at weekends, if you are working, if you're going to send those emails, just think about how that can impact somebody else. Whilst you may be happy to work in that time and send just that one quick email, which can be avoided, but not all the time. Maybe all you need to do is just delay the send in Outlook so that the person on the other end of it doesn't receive that email at 10 o'clock at night and then is kept up at night thinking about it. You delay that send and it hits their inbox at 9 o'clock when they're ready to think about that and it's not impacting their well-being. Also, making sure that actually there's no expectation that if I did send that email at 8 o'clock at night, there's no expectation for Barry to respond to me until he's in my working hours. I shouldn't expect that. There should be no expectation of people to be working outside of their working hours. There's certain things that we need to encourage as well. So respecting that status light. If I am in Teams with my do not disturb notification on or my status on, just because someone can't reach me on chat doesn't mean they should try then emailing me and calling me to try and get hold of me if it isn't something that is really urgent. Making sure we respect those status lights is important as well, because once you break it once, it'll be very easy for somebody to go and break it again. Doing things like making sure you are encouraging people to take your lunch break or take their lunch break, and making sure that they've done that, maybe going out for a walk, especially whilst we're all cooped up in the house, making sure that they are taking care of themselves with things like lunch break. And holidays as well is really important, just for that well-being, that time to reset before coming back to work, encouraging your teams, encouraging your colleagues and yourself to take your holiday, because otherwise you'll get to a point where you'll really need it, and that's what we don't want to get to. And also, whilst Barry said that the My Analytics insights that we can see there are all personal to us, so we can't see anybody else's, actually encouraging your teams to share that with each other. So myself and Barry, we have a bit of a challenge where we're trying to get our quiet days built up at the moment. And as you saw, Barry's done a great job with getting that from 2 to 18, I think it is at the moment. But actually sharing that with people, saying, last 28 days, I've only had 10 days quiet day. I want to get that up to 15 in the next 28 days in the next month. And they can hold you to that and they can ask you how you're doing. If they are starting to email in the evenings, you can ask them why they're doing that and try and help them switch off in that time. So just thinking of some wellbeing rules that you can implement in your organizations or in your teams, and then sharing them with other people and encouraging everyone else to share them as well is a really good step to making sure that everyone in the organization is taking care of their own well-being and other people, and that you're all being very productive and protecting that focus time.
So for those of you that have found the content today useful, in the kind of guise of sharing with others and helping take other people on this journey, we are happy to do a complimentary wellbeing session with your organization, covering the technologies and our tips and tricks like we've spoken about today with your wider user base. So if that is something that you would be interested in, head over to the link on screen, so https://bit.ly/CW wellbeing. From there, you'll be able to just register your interest and we'll be in touch to discuss that a little bit further. So I'm hoping that you've managed to take something away from today's session. I think where we are at the moment, the changes that we've seen in the world, in our lifestyles, in our work environments, we need now more than ever to be just spending a little bit time on ourselves, focusing on ourselves a little bit to make sure that we are focusing, that we are being productive, but most importantly, that you're able to switch off at the end of the day. You know that you've got things under control. You're not staying up late at night about worrying about things. We're respecting each other. We're allowing other people to be productive, to have some thinking time, to have some time to actually get work done rather than filling up their calendars. And don't be that person that books over focus time. It is so important that people have that time to be able to focus and do their work. Thank you for joining us at today's presentation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Define tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.